I work at a gas station in the countryside of Pennsylvania. It's not the most exciting job, but it's easy, and they pay me okay. A few weeks ago, this new guy started working with us. Let's call him James. James is a bit strange. He's around 25 or 26, doesn't talk much, and has a creepy laugh. My boss and I noticed it, but it wasn't a big deal. Customers never complained, and he did his job fine. But a couple of weeks ago, things changed. Motor oil started disappearing. First, it was a little bit, then whole shelves and boxes were gone. My boss realized it was happening after James's shifts. We checked the security tapes but couldn't catch him stealing. Usually my boss takes the tapes home, but he had his daughter's softball game. So he asked me to watch them and offered to pay me extra cash under the table. 3 cameras, 3 tapes, a long night, but I needed the money. I put them in an old VCR and sat back. So 2 days ago, the last time James worked, he started his shift at 4 p.m. Everything seemed normal at the beginning. He counted his cash, switched with the girl who was there before him, and waited for a customer. First, it was Mrs. Arnold, a regular at 4:03. She grabbed her smokes and a newspaper, paid with a 20. Nothing strange there. Next up was Ron, a local guy on his motorcycle. He filled up, got beef jerky, paid with his card, and left. Then, a stranger in a cowboy hat rolled in. He grabbed $40 of diesel, paid with 100, and took off. I leaned back, sighing. Watching someone else do this job is even more boring than doing it. But my boss offered me extra cash to keep watching, so I kept the tape rolling. Everything stayed normal. I had a feeling James, if he was up to something, knew we were onto him. I didn't think he'd be dumb enough to get caught on camera. It stayed dull and routine until about 5 o'clock. At 5:03, Mrs. Arnold walked back in. Seemed like she forgot something, but she didn't. She bought the same smokes and newspaper, paid with another 20. Odd, I thought. Maybe she's a bit forgetful. James should have told her she already got her stuff, but it's not against the rules to sell the same thing twice. Then Ron showed up again. More gas for his motorcycle, the same jerky, and paid with his card again. No big deal, I thought. Mrs. Arnold forgets Ron might have more than one bike. But then, the guy with the cowboy hat came back in. A chill ran down my spine. "Don't get diesel, don't get diesel," I whispered to my empty living room. But he did. $40 of diesel, paid with another 100. Every move exactly like the first visit, even the nose scratch. Either this guy's super rich and owns a bunch of trucks, or something seriously weird is going on. I kept watching. Every customer for the next hour was just like before. Every single one. It seriously freaked me out. Then at 6:03, Mrs. Arnold walked back in. Same smokes, newspaper, and paid with a 20 again. I thought I was losing it. I only watched another half hour before I started fast-forwarding through the rest. It was all the same. Every customer came in at the exact same times, exactly 1 hour apart. I know what you're thinking. Maybe James messed with the tapes, ran a loop of his first hour over and over. But no, that wasn't it. The camera covers windows around the cash register, and I watched the sunlight fade as time passed. James's routine didn't loop. He did his job, swept, mopped, restocked, just like you'd expect. But the same customers kept coming in. I was panicking. Something was seriously wrong, and I had no explanation. I skipped ahead to when he locked up and walked to his car. He hadn't stolen anything, but I kept watching just to be sure. I fast-forwarded one last time, to about midnight. Exactly at 12:03, out of nowhere, James's face pops up on the camera. I don't mean he moved his head into view. 1 second, the store was empty. The next, all I could see was his face. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at me, I was sure of it. I screamed and fumbled for the remote. By the time I grabbed it, he was gone, just as soon as he appeared. One frame he was there, the next he wasn't. My hands were shaking like crazy, but I popped in another tape. The other indoor camera shows the back area by the cash register. I'd be able to see how he got up to put his face in the camera like that. I skipped ahead to 12:03, but there was nothing. I should have seen him standing on a chair or something on this tape, but he wasn't there. I didn't see him enter the store at all after he left. It's like he wasn't really there. He doesn't know the security code, and no alarms were triggered that night after he locked up. But what I did see at 12:03 was the motor oil vanishing off the shelf. All of it. Just like James's face. One second it was there, the next it wasn't. I turned off that tape and went to bed, but I didn't get a wink of sleep. My body's exhausted, but my mind's racing. That tape was undeniably the creepiest, most disturbing thing I've ever seen in my life. I've got work in a few hours. My boss wants me to bring the tapes back in and let him know what I found. But what the hell am I going to say? James works the night shift tonight, right after me. The plan is for my boss to confront him just before I leave, since I'm supposed to be the one who caught him stealing. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I guess I'll have to show my boss the tapes, but I don't want to watch them with him. I never want to see something like that again. I can't get the image of James just smiling directly into the camera out of my mind. It was the creepiest look I've ever seen on another human being's face. Anyway, I'm gonna try again to get some last-minute sleep before I have to go in and deal with this. I'll let you guys know what happens. Update, 2:49 p.m. I'm updating from my phone, so sorry for any errors. My boss just finished watching the last of the tapes. I warned him about what to expect. You really can't prepare someone for something like that. He's scared shitless, and so am I. And James is due to come in at 4. We've got a little over an hour to get our shit together, but neither one of us knows what to say to him. Is he just a messed up guy who likes to steal motor oil and scare the hell out of people? Or is he something else? I don't know if this is crazy. Does anyone think he could have anything to do with the time loop? My boss said he never noticed anything like that in the other tapes, but the way James popped up in this one made me think he knew I would be watching. It's like he wanted me to see what he could do, like he was showing off or something. The way he smiled into the camera was like a little kid showing you a sandcastle they just built or something. I probably sound crazy. I sure feel the part. I'm going to talk to my boss some more. We have to calm ourselves down and figure out how to handle this. I'll update again tonight, but I have a really bad feeling about how this is going to play out. Update, 4:33 p.m. No sign of James. Tried calling him, but his phone has been disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 5:33 p.m. Still no sign of James. Attempted to call him again, but his phone is disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 6:33 p.m. James is nowhere to be found. Another attempt to call him, but his phone remains disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 7:33 p.m. James is still missing. Phone calls are futile as his phone stays disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 8:33 p.m. No trace of James. Calling him proves pointless as his phone is still disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 10:58 p.m. Holy crap. I just got home and saw my previous updates. Things make less sense now than ever. Here's what I can tell you. I went to work. James never showed up. My boss and I decided to call the police, as you're well aware. When I picked up the phone to call, though, the sun went out. I kid you not. That's what I thought happened. Apparently, I blacked out for exactly 5 hours because when I looked at the clock, it was 9:33. I think I got stuck in James's time loop, and then I snapped out of it at the exact point I blacked out, if that makes sense. But that's when things got really weird. My boss stood right beside me when I blacked out, ready to back up my story to the cops. When I came to, the phone was in my hand, but it was dead. No dial tone, nothing. My boss was still there, but he wasn't moving, frozen mid-step. I checked the clock again, and it wasn't ticking. The second hand was stuck on the 12. It was 9:33 exactly. The clock on the register's computer screen wasn't moving either. My phone was frozen. There was even a customer at the register waiting for my boss to get him cigarettes. I bet that would have been his 5th pack of the day. I got out of there fast, didn't bother locking up, turning off the lights or grabbing the security tapes to upload on the internet. Trust me, that was the last thing on my mind. The gas station sits on a major highway, and cars were lined up along it, except they weren't parked. They were frozen. People inside were as still as wax statues. I jumped in my car and prayed it would start. Luckily, it did. About halfway home, time started up again. The radio's static turned into music, like it's supposed to be. Listening to the host talk between songs, it seemed like no one else noticed the time freeze or whatever it was. I was the only one. Well, I'm sure James noticed too. I still don't know where he is or what he's up to. I'm hiding in my room and planning to call the police again in the morning. I'm not sure if I ever got through to them before, or if they took me seriously. I'm scared for my life at this point. I'll update tomorrow if I can. Last update, 10:33 a.m. Finally crashed around 4 last night. Exhaustion probably did the trick. Woke up to my boss calling this morning. He'd been trying since 6. He woke up when time started again last night and dialed the cops right away. They came over to check things out, and my boss spilled the whole story. The local police are small-town guys, more concerned about missing motor oil, but my boss took what he could get, just to have their attention. They decided to hunt down James. We keep all employee applications on file, and since James had just started, finding his was easy. Checked the address on it and headed to his house. You won't believe what they discovered. James's listed address was an empty lot. Used to be a house there, but it burned down in 1993. It's a small town, so almost everyone remembers that fire. A family of 4 lived there, and rumor has it they had a son no one really talked about. I can't confirm that, but what I can confirm is that after an insurance investigation, the fire was deemed arson. The whole house was soaked in oil and set ablaze with a Molotov cocktail. The family was asleep. None survived. They never caught the person responsible. Rumor has it that when they tried to contact the estranged son, he was nowhere to be found. Anyway, my boss gave me a ring and dropped a bomb. The FBI was in town, and they needed to talk to me about the weird stuff happening. It was about 7:15, and I wanted more sleep, but he said the cops were with him at the gas station. "Come in," he said, so I dragged myself there. 4 guys in suits greeted me and said to take a seat. We went over everything 2 or 3 times until they got all the details down. I spilled about James, the security tape, and my night at work. After I finished, one of the agents muttered, "Oh Christ, we've got another one on our hands." Then they made me sign papers, saying I wouldn't spill the beans about what went down. So I can't say much more. Might be breaking the law just by posting this. Now I'm home, not sure what to do. The agent's words are going to stick with me. Anyway, gotta run errands today and then head to work to grab some tapes. My boss and I suspect James, the new guy, complete creep, is swiping motor oil. I have better things to do, but my boss is sliding me overtime cash, and I'm trying to save up for a vacation so I could really use the money. It should be simple. The oil always vanishes after his shifts. I figure I'll watch the tapes, catch him red-handed, and that's it. Ever got super scared because everything around you just stopped moving? It happened to me. What's your take on James's weird face showing up on the tape? Seriously creepy, right? Why do you think the motor oil keeps disappearing? And what's James's deal in all this strange stuff? I'm confused and I need answers. For more gripping stories, hit the follow button and stay tuned.